Here's a Bible trivia question for you. What are the very last words that Jesus speaks in the Gospel of John? The Gospel that we read tonight. What are the very last words that Jesus speaks in the Gospel of John? On my way to an appointment early Monday morning this week, I was following a car, a brown Odyssey, and there was a bumper sticker on it, and it caught my attention because I could see that there was a cross at the end of the bumper sticker, and it was in a circle, and so I was particularly drawn to the words on the bumper sticker. And so I could make the image out, but not the words, so I got a little closer to it as I drove up, and close enough that I then started to inch forward and actually kind of lean forward in the car to try and see if I could read the words on the bumper sticker. And I got close enough where I could read the words, and I saw that they were saying, "Do you follow Jesus as closely as you're following me?" The last words that Jesus says in the Gospel of John are, "Follow me." Jesus doesn't say, "Follow me" in the Thursday evening meal story that my colleagues just read out loud. But following him is what he's talking about, because he says, "Even as I have, you ought to." He says, "I have set you an example. You also should do what I have done to you." And he says, "You are blessed if you do what I have shown you." He's modeling "follow me" 12 times by washing the feet of his disciples. Note the precise detail in this text, which struck me when I studied it earlier in the week, that same Monday with the pastors. Jesus gets up from the table. He gets up from supper, says John. He took off his outer robe, and he tied a towel around himself. Then he put water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe their feet with a towel that was tied around them. John is particularly attentive to the details in this story. There's a lot of details there. John wants us to see this moment, to be there in that moment. Jesus takes his outer garment off and puts on an apron for messy work, kneeling, crouching, working with his hands and their feet. Jesus is doing physical, tactile work for all of them, and that includes Judas. Did you note that in the story? Jesus washes Judas' feet too here. I do not believe Jesus is calling us to follow him by a specific communal practice of regularly washing each other's feet. I don't think so, although I say that hesitantly. I'm not confident about that. But I do think Jesus is calling us to work, to practical, working, helpful, messy, caring tasks as a way of serving him, because it will glorify God. He says that in the text. And then he summarizes it saying, "You should love one another, and that is how people will know that you are my followers, if you have the love for one another." The preschool director asked me if I would come this morning to do a foot washing with the students at the preschool, 3 and 4-year-olds. And so I did. And I presumed that it would be one child of each, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, just kind of like I did with Noah and Emma here. I washed the feet of 3 and 4-year-olds this morning, but I washed 60 feet of 3 and 4-year-olds. And if I had imagined, which I failed to do, that I would have that many people coming forward to ask their feet to be washed, I would have grabbed one of my colleagues and made them come along. Not because it was messy work. That's not why. But because it was, for me, shaping, realigning, transformative. Note that Jesus doesn't say to the disciples, go get your feet washed. He says, wash each other's feet, as if the command is to the work involved, the messy, practical, ongoing work. And I found it surprisingly and probably indictingly transformative. Not for the children. I won't presume to say what it was for them. I've learned from Nancy Little that it always means more to them than adults imagine. I think it was a moment for them, but it was transformative for the one performing the act out of care. That's what I'm reporting to you. And isn't that what Jesus is saying to them when Jesus says, follow me? Not go get your feet washed, but as he is saying, and as he is washing, he's saying like this, like this, like this, times 12. You follow like this. How practical and accessible is the life that Jesus calls us into? We pray, we bathe, we eat, we love. It is often messy. Sometimes it is hard work. It is often unrecognized and humble work. Sometimes it is work out in front. But it follows the example of Jesus. It is transformative because it draws us into love. How closely are you following Jesus?